Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to talk about the uh, Dungeons and Dragons Waterdeep Tome Wall campaign, run with the Iron Player, physical table game using at an run in an FLGS, run with the in an FLGS, run with the Iron Player, right? Running an FLGS. And so at this point, let's go ahead and dig in. So at this point, the Iron Player, who is a skilled veteran Dungeons and Dragons player, he is both a skilled veteran Dungeon Master and he is a skilled veteran Dragon Master. He's made many player characters and run many player characters. And he is probably one of the most experienced players I know. He's a very skilled veteran. Now, actually, when I say veteran, I mean he's played D&D before. He's also a veteran, which I thought was really interesting too. So he's a veteran. So at this point, what was really interesting was he chose Tactical Infinity, right? I had ready to go Lego Dungeons and Dragons minifigures, 30 different options that he could have chose from. He wanted to create his character from scratch. I offered to let him run at any level he chose, right? And so he said, well, you can choose. And so I said first level. And so he created a first level human bard noble. And this is very interesting. Using the new 2024 core rulebooks, he created a character in 15 minutes flat. And we did stats by rolling 4d6, drop the lowest, and he could put them in any slot he wanted. He came out with a 10, an 11, a 12, a 14, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16, and 17. Those are his stats, right? And he created that character in 15 minutes. That means that a skilled veteran character, a skilled veteran player, a skilled veteran Dragon Master can create a Dungeons & Dragons character in 15 minutes with the new 2024 PHB. And I think the reason why is it is massively, and I'm talking not a little bit, like a lot, it is very much made much, much better. It is much, much better built than previously, right? Okay? All right. So we got all that going. And so at this point, his character's made, and so I present the story, right? And so I said, okay, we open in Faerun, right? Now this was really nice. I could have said any realm, right? And this is why, in my opinion, Session 0 needs to die, right? There's an excitement about the Dungeon Master. You know, it's almost like telling a chef, you make the meal, I'll eat it. You know, I just really think it's important to keep freedom at the start of campaigns. And I just want to, like, Session 0 is a joy sucker. It's just a joy sucker. It sucks the joy out of Dungeon Masters, and it sucks the joy out of Dragon Masters, because it's just a trauma dump, right? You're like, oh, let me tell you everything that causes me agita, right? There's no better way to destroy a Dungeons & Dragons game than to run a Session 0. And I know I'm the only person on the internet saying this, but I'm telling you, Session 0 needs to die. It is the worst. It is the absolute worst. And it's canon now. It's right in the DMG. But there's a lot of stuff that's in the DMG that's wrong. But that's okay, because the rules aren't in charge. You're in charge. That's also in the DMG, right? So good Dungeon Masters fix the rules that the designers got wrong. All right. So it's now time for me to present the story. So I do. Okay. I'm like, we start in Faerun, okay? And you are in Waterdeep. And 1 week ago, a terrible event happened in Waterdeep. And that event was Orvanx, okay? So Orvanx is an evil orc wizard, okay? Now, he had a spell book, and he was learning his spells like most do. He was 20th level. But at this point in his career, he had connected himself to multiple dark entities, right? He's not a warlock, though. And he had essentially linked up magical batteries to his spells so that he could overcast, right? So he gets in the middle of it in Waterdeep, right? And he's fighting two distinct groups of adventurers, okay? And in addition to that, the Harpers were involved, right? So the Harpers and two distinct adventure groups are trying to take him down, right? And they're trying to kill him because he has already done a bunch of villainy in Waterdeep. And so he goes to, so he's fighting these two group. He's fighting the Harpers. He's fighting Adventure Group A and Adventure Group B, right? And all three of them had so the Harpers had 2 elves. Adventure Group 1 had 1 elf. Adventure Group A had 1 elf. And Adventure Group B had 1 elf among their numbers, right? So 4 elves, right? So he casts 1 spell, right, to lightning bolt one of the elves, right? But then he kicks in his overcast and he calls in his favors. He calls in his power boosts from these other evil entities that he's connected to his own spell casting, right? And he overcasts. And his intention was to target every single one of the 4 elves in his vicinity, right? But he actually targeted, he didn't know this, but between Neverwinter and Waterdeep, right? And he had connected his casting to 2 portal rings in both Neverwinter and in Waterdeep, so they could cast in both cities, right? He actually targeted all 4,000 elves, 3,000 in Waterdeep, 1,000 in Neverwinter, at the same time, and killed them all. He killed every single elf in residence in Neverwinter and in Waterdeep all at once. Killed all of them, right? And of course, and then the Harpers and the 2 adventure groups killed him. Okay, killed Orphanx. Now, this was shocking and appalling and confusion, right? Because 1, people thought that there was someone targeting elves, right? And technically, he was targeting elves. He was targeting 4 elves that were battling him, right? But he ended up killing 4,000 elves that were just into 2 cities where he had linked his spell casting to, right? Where he had like set up these magical boosts to boost his spells, right? Using meta magic, right? So he ends up killing these 4,000 elves, right? And this sends Neverwinter, and this happened a week ago. So now Neverwinter and Waterdeep are in massive disarray, okay? So what's going on between them? Well, so basically every elf dies, right? And so that means there were merchant elves, there were adventurer elves, there were citizen elves, there were elves, there were masked lord elves in Waterdeep, there was government leaders who were elves in Neverwinter. All of them are dead, right? And they're all killed by a lightning strike, right? By a massive internally blasting. The lightning strike actually came from inside them, each one of them, and fried them electrically using lightning, right? Lightning bolt, and killed all of them, right? Now this means there's buildings that aren't owned anymore because their owners are dead. This means there are like elf wizard workshops. This means like there's guild artisan workshops. These guys own stuff, right? They're hundreds of years old, right? And now also there are adventuring groups that are missing one of their members. Their families, like there's different species of married in with the elves at different points. There's families that have lost people. This is chaos all over. Right? Now, Lord Neverember agrees with the Open Lord of Waterdeep and the Mass Lords of Waterdeep, and they're like, this is it. We got to do something about this. And so what they do is they agree on the Tome Wall. They make all spell books illegal, right? And so they're saying, essentially, we are going to have a public knowledge of all wizards going forward, and we're going to create the Tome Wall. So Lord Neverember and the Open Lord of Waterdeep agree to build the Tome Wall. Now, what is the Tome Wall? Well, it's built of its obsidian, okay? And each segment of the wall that reaches from Waterdeep all the way to Neverwinter. Now, they're just starting the wall, so it's only about 200 feet long at this point, right? And all the books on the left side belong to all the spell books on the left side belong to Neverwinter, and all the books on the right side belong to Waterdeep. And essentially, every wizard has been instructed to surrender their spell book. Their spell book is going to be mounted on the Tome wall. The Tome wall is magical. It's made of obsidian, and then each segment of it is, and there's like a ridge that delineates each segment, is 20 feet high and 20 feet wide, a 20-foot square of obsidian, right? And in that is anchored the spell book, and the spell book is public, right? And so the wall has been created so that any member of the public can come forward, and they just need to wave their hand right or left, and the books will open and close. And literally everything written on the page of the spell book is written on the wall in red light, right? Actually, red light on the right, Waterdeep, and blue light on the left for Neverwinter, right? And so all the spell books are now public, right? Which means that, and all wizards have been demanded to surrender their spell books, and all these spell books are going to be made public. So wizards are allowed to cast spells from spell books, but it doesn't have to be their spell books anymore. It's any spell book mounted on the wall, right? And then the way they do this is they use their arcane focus, and they draw from they take their spells from the wall, right? And so this changes how wizards are actually able to cast. They don't have their daily limits anymore, right? Their limit is literally how many times the spell is listed on the wall, right? And each wizard links to each spell book individually. So basically 100 wizards can cast from these books that are on the wall, but each day they're limited. So if they want to cast Fireball 3 times, but only 2 of the spell books on the wall have Fireball, then they're only going to be able to cast Fireball twice, right? In addition to that, get this. In addition to that, but like another wizard will be able to cast that Fireball twice as well, and then another wizard will be able to cast that Fireball twice. The other thing is all level restrictions are gone, right? Any wizard that links to the spell wall, to the Tome wall, any wizard that links to the Tome wall, that attunes themselves to the Tome wall, will be able to cast any spell on the wall, no matter what the level. Yep. So this is fundamentally changing the way that magic will be done forever. Now get this. Now this seems incredibly, like wizards are going to be more powerful. That's not quite true. Every time they use their arcane focus to draw from the wall, they actually use their own life force, and there's always a chance that they could die, right, when they cast a spell, right? So they have to access, so they have to draw the spell from the book on the wall, right? And it could be from any range. They just need to have seen it once, right, with their own eyes, right? They need to have read it once with their own eyes. But the farther away they are from the wall, the more life force it draws. The higher the level it is, the more life force it draws. And the greater the alignment distance from the spells, the more life force it draws. And this ramps up to the point where you could have a 50% chance of dying on a cast. That's as high as it goes. Or you could have a 1 in 1,000 chance of dying. That's as safe as it goes, right? And that would be you standing next to the wall, casting a spell that you already have the ability to because your level allows it, and your alignment was exactly the same as the alignment of the wizard, right? So this is completely and utterly changing how magic works in Faerun, right? But also, every single wizard who kept their spell book is now a fugitive, right? And is illegal, right? In addition to that, many of all the adventuring groups are in disarray because most of them had an elfin, right? And so there's a lot of chaos, right? So everything I just said, I presented to the player at the beginning of the session, right? I said, okay, that's the current state of Faerun. And I'm going to cut it off here. Just, and that's the full story of what I presented at the beginning of the Dungeons & Dragons Waterdeep Tome Wall campaign. Thank you very much for letting me share this with you. Every single word you just heard is my opinion, my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.